In his message for the World Day of Prayer for Creation, Pope Francis tells us, it is necessary to stand with the victims of environmental and climate injustice, striving to end the senseless war on our common home, which is a terrible world war. Viewing what is happening to our common home as a senseless, terrible world war is an appropriate place to center ourselves on this fourth Sunday of the season of creation, as we focus and reflect on the section of the Vow of Nonviolence that states, I vow to carry out in my life the love and example of Jesus by living conscientiously and simply so that I do not deprive others of the means to live. This part of the Vow of Nonviolence echoes the quote attributed to Mahatma Gandhi that appeared in so many late 20th century bumper stickers. Live simply so others can simply live. Back in the 90s, my friend, the Reverend John Pitney, wrote a song based on this quote. The chorus goes, learn to live simply so others can simply live. See how the wealth you acquire is born on the backs of the poor, whose children beg daily for food, whose land feeds your child who wants more. Our children who need their own rooms lament that the forest will die. For many of us living in affluent nations, the thought that our lifestyles, our wanting the latest phones, the newest, biggest house or car on the block, the trendiest fashion, that all of it is born on the backs of the poor and quite literally on the soil, water, and air of a rapidly depleted earth, is perhaps a bitter pill to swallow. Few of us consider ourselves as a global elite that is causing a war in our common home. You might think, that's the lifestyle of the rich and famous. That's not me. But how conscientiously do we live? Do we stop and think how what we buy and use and discard impacts others and the planet? Do we have any idea of how our excessive demand for food, energy, gadgets, clothes, larger homes, newer cars, and the waste that comes along with all of our accumulated stuff are sadly part of a system of ecological violence and exploitation? In fact, if every person on earth lived like the average person in the United States, we would need 5 total Earths just to keep up with everyone's lifestyle. Shockingly, nearly 20% of the world's population is responsible for the consumption of 80% of natural resources. And that 20% lives mostly in the global north. That 20% is most likely you and me. Another iconic bumper sticker from the late 20th century said, "He who dies with the most stuff wins." I always wondered, wins what? The popularity contests? Salvation? No. Jesus explicitly said, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. How can we call the accumulation of stuff a win when that thinking is directly fueling the climate crisis, deforestation, ocean and air pollution, the loss of biodiversity, and is consequently creating violence and havoc for billions of people around the world? The science is clear. Because of human activity and human consumption, we're seeing biodiversity loss and climate change. We are destabilizing the processes and systems that maintain the stability and resilience of our planet. And the more we destabilize them, the more humanity and our common home are at risk. Our vulnerable neighbors who live in poorer areas or live in areas that can't adapt to the global destabilization that is happening will suffer, and many will even die. Watching the devastation and loss of life from the floods in Libya or the fires in Maui is gut-wrenching when viewed from the perspective that our lifestyle choices directly lead to these tragic moments. Which brings me to today's gospel reading of the parable of the landowner and the workers. In the passage, the landowner pays all the workers the same wage, regardless of what time they started or how hard they worked. Just as some of the laborers did in the story, we might question the fairness of the landowner's response of the last will be first and the first will be last. However, are we missing an important lesson of the parable? The landowner also tells the workers, take what is yours and go. Perhaps we should focus on the question of what is mine? What if we, the 20% of the world in the global north, are like the workers who started early in the day and believe that we're naturally owed more than what the laborers who start later in the day? Perhaps our brothers and sisters in the global south are the workers who began working later in the day. We in the global north seem to act as if we are entitled to more than what is ours to consume. And we have taken more of the planet than what is truly ours to take. In Amoris Laetitia, Pope Francis warned, when nature is viewed solely as a source of profit and gain, this has serious consequences for society. This vision of might is right has engendered immense inequality, injustice, and acts of violence against the majority of humanity, since resources end up in the hands of the first comer or the most powerful. The winner takes all. Completely at odds with this model are the ideals of harmony, justice, fraternity, and peace, as proposed by Jesus. Have we in the global north internalized the first comer or the most powerful winner takes all mentality seen in some of the workers of today's gospel parable? Perhaps it's a good time to remind ourselves of Jesus' instruction to his disciples. Take nothing for the journey but a walking stick. No food, no sack, no money in our belts. Which brings me back to another of my friend John Pitney's lyrics. Jesus says, take no bread for the journey. Jesus says, take no bag for the road. Walk lightly on the earth. Take nothing but love when you roam. Let us vow to walk lightly and simply on the earth and take nothing but love when we roam.